the spouse of our sister Joyce Laboso, Edwin Abonyo, and your children, Brian, Ted, Marco, Mina, and Dennis, and the rest of your family, distinguished Kenyans present here, the clergy, fellow mourners, hamjambo. It is difficult to decide whether we are mourning Joyce or we are celebrating a great woman. I say it's difficult because I remember 3 months ago when I went to see Joyce at Nairobi Hospital. She was very jovial, and she didn't look like she was in great danger. I remember praying with her, and I remember very well telling her that she will go to London, she will come back, and all is going to be well. I regret that I was wrong, that we do not have Joyce today. I came to know Joyce after the demise of her sister, Lorna, who was a great friend of mine, and we had all been elected in 2008 together in one party. And when Lorna, who was the politician in the family, passed on, there was a debate as to what would happen before, as Mama Ida says, Joyce was persuaded to run. And when Joyce finally was persuaded to run, as her bigger brother in that fellowship of politicians, she pulled me aside and told me, there is like a small matter I want to tell you before I finally make this decision. And so she told me, you know, my husband is Mr. Abonyo. And the way you know this politics, it might become an issue. So I told her, Joyce, we will craft a message to deal with that. And we will insist that you are the daughter of Mr. Laboso. Please ask Edwin not to mind if we do not put his name in our arrangement. And I want to say, from that moment, I realized that Joyce had a superhuman being for a husband. From that moment. And of course, Joyce went ahead to become the Member of Parliament for Sotik, and her career grew. And from the moment we worked with her and she became Member of Parliament for Sotik, she eventually developed a lot of rapport with many of us, and progressively she became part of our cycle. And she was a very resourceful person, as has been said here, by people who worked very closely with her. And I want to attest that indeed she was resourceful, bright, and forthright. Whenever you asked her about her opinion, she would not beat about the bush. She would be forthright, candid, and truthful. And progressively, she became like my sister. And I remember many times, I kept telling her, you know, in our community, you know, you must present yourself in this way so that people respect you. And whenever she put on a skirt that was not too long, I'll tell her, Joyce, this skirt is short. And later, whenever I went to Bomet or she knew I was coming for a meeting, she would carry a leso. In fact, I have seen in one of the photographs in this eulogy, she actually has that leso because she became very aware. And I want to say Joyce was special. Whenever she asked us to go to Bomet to support her in whatever way, it was difficult not to accept. When we were elected in 2013, and when we were discussing with President Uhuru Kenyatta the leadership of Parliament, and we wanted to make history because we realized that there were fewer women in leadership. We deliberately decided that we were going to support Joyce to become the first Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. And it wasn't a difficult job because Joyce had her own credentials. And she was firm, decisive, and that position she fitted without many problems. Maybe just for the record, we had also decided that that position was going to be for women, even in 2017. But we couldn't overcome Moses Cheboy. Because Moses Cheboy, for those of us who have been members of parliament, used to run a parallel parliament outside there, where he was the speaker. And it became difficult to overcome him, so the women lost a bit there. But we already had a lady in mind, and I'm not going to reveal who it was. But all of us know that in 2013, there was no woman elected as governor or senator in 2013 elections. And so, President Uhuru Kenyatta and I made a decision that we were going to do something about it. And in the interest of democracy, I am not going to say what we did. And I am not going to say that the women who were eventually elected governors and senators did it because of anybody's support. But we were desperate that at least some women be elected as governors and some women be elected as senators. And I want to say to the women who eventually were elected that you made us proud. You changed the history of this nation, and the lady lying in this casket became one of the pioneer governors in independent Kenya. And so Joyce became the first elected deputy speaker and became among the first women to be elected as governors. And she had a great future ahead of her. I remember one of the newspapers said the other day that the Ruto camp has lost. Maybe it's good to correct that Joyce was too large to be fitted in any camp. She was a great women leader in Kenya that traversed all shades of our politics. She was a great woman. I can attest to that. And I think the testimony that has been given about Joyce speaks for itself. I said Joyce had a special man for a husband because he did not interfere with Joyce's career. He actually supported Joyce as she pursued her political career. She was supportive. And again, even in the difficulties that Joyce went through, I want to say to my friend Edwin, you became a true friend to your wife. You were always there. And as Edwin said, even when the doctors in London told us that it wasn't going to be possible, I remember we talked very late at night, around 1 a.m., and the decision was for Joyce to be brought back home. And many women, Anne, Waiguru, Shebesh were there, and Elachi and others. When I spoke with Edwin, the reasoning was, so we are bringing Joyce home so that what can happen? You know, have we said it's over? So we decided, let's give it one more shot on the advice of doctors. So we said, let's take her back to India again, we see. And His Excellency the President of Kenya, as Edwin has said, called me very late in the night and said, so what is the decision? Are we bringing Joyce home or are we taking her to India? Please make the decision with the family and let me know. Whatever the family wants, we will do it. And again, our very special thanks to His Excellency the President, because apart from being Joyce's friend during the good times, he was available all the way, even when Joyce was in difficulties. So again, that is Joyce. And I will say here that I think what was humanly possible by the family and by friends to be done for our sister Joyce was done. And finally we had to surrender to God's will that Joyce, because of the difficulties she was going through, it was time for her to rest. We can only celebrate her life because we have huge lessons to learn and a great mentor to emulate in what women can do in our republic. So, to Edwin and your family, to many friends who are here, I know many of us have not gotten the opportunity to say something about this great lady. We have our CSS here. Maybe I will request all the CSS to stand so that, thank you very much. We have CS Kobia, we have CS Farida Karonei, we have CS Chelugui, we have CS Eugene, we have CS Sicily, we have CS Amina, and we have CS Ababu, and we have CS Rachel Omamo. Let me say one final thing, Bishop, one final thing. That part of the reason why President Uhuru Kenyatta made universal health coverage a priority of the government of Kenya and his own program is because of situations like this one of cancer. In 2015, because of the prevalence of cancer and diabetes, we did two things. Number one, we expanded the NHIF coverage, which originally did not cover cancer and diabetes, to include cancer and diabetes, so that more people can access treatment on NHIF. The second thing that was done by the government of Kenya is under our managed equipment service. Screening and diagnosis became a central pillar of that program. We now have in all our 98 referral facilities in the country a cancer screening facility. Therefore, the prevalence that we are now seeing of cancer is partly because even the people who were dying of cancer before, nobody knew they were dying of cancer. Many people thought they were dying of this, of another disease, of something different. And as a result of that program, already 100,000 people have benefited from treatment under the NHIF oncology program. It is good to admit that there is a lot of scope to be done. There is a lot more we can do in terms of more centers for chemotherapy, more centers for radiotherapy, and a bigger program to campaign so that citizens and the people of Kenya can understand how to better manage our health issues, and especially to be upfront with regular health checks so that we can manage some of these conditions earlier. All of us know that cancer at an early stage, if detected, it can actually be treated. And that is why Joyce, though she had a condition almost 27 years ago, she managed to live this long. So it's also a lesson that if we can get to the culture of identifying and having regular health checks, we can be able to screen, detect early, manage early, and be able to save lives in our country. So with those many remarks, again, my condolences and that of my family, to Edwin and the family, and to all of us. God bless you. Thank you very much.